Hello again. So we start the panel discussion, AI policy framework between sovereignty and standards. I would like to invite our moderator, Anna Chirita, Strategic Projects Director at ATIC and Program Lead for TechWill. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And the speakers, Levan Darsalia, Deputy Chairman at Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency. Peter Bilik, Member of the Expert Committee on AI Development in Ukraine under the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. He is joining us online. And Alexandru Gozun, AmCham Moldova President, Director of PricewaterhouseCoopers Moldova. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the session. We hope we will not take too long, but cover all topics that we have prepared. Therefore, as my predecessor has mentioned, we have three people on board. We have Levan, who is Deputy Chairman of JITA, and has a broad experience in developing national AI strategy and other initiatives. We have Peter from Ukraine. And Peter, feel free to tell us when we need to stop, because I know you have a meeting at 3:30. So in case you need to go earlier, we will prioritize that you talk. He's the head of Just Kutum law firm, and also he's a member of expert committee of the development of artificial intelligence under the Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation. When he has time, he also teaches AI for lawyers and is involved in multiple AI-related initiatives. And of course, we have Alexandru Guzun, who is my old colleague and friend from Moldova, who is president of AmCham and has over 20 years of experience in business development sector. He is also board member of European Business Association and involved in multiple initiatives, one of them being the establishment of an AI hub in Moldova. So our topic today relates to sovereignty and standards. We have a set of 4 different types of questions that we would like to cover. And the first one would go probably to Levan, and it's kind of a bit of a prehistory. When we're talking about sovereignty and standards and how in the AI era that actually relates to a current reality, we see countries that succeed, such as the US, and that is leading currently still the AI according to multiple statements, and including ChatGPT, who considers that US is leading, although maybe there are hidden other placements of other countries. In Europe, we have Denmark, who is really making its way in the private sector, but then we have France and UK and other countries that are leading on the ecosystem side. So when it comes to Georgia, how do we interpret AI sovereignty? Is it about data control? Is it about talent? Or is it a strategic autonomy?
Well, first of all, greetings to everybody. Thank you for the question. I think Georgia and we interpret the AI sovereignty as basically everybody else. Well, I think we cannot talk, and no country actually can be fully 100% sovereign, because, well, the reality is that 2 countries on the planet now control the majority of the infrastructure and majority of the models, is the US and China. So, and basically everybody else is, I would say, dependent to a certain extent on those 2 big players. But how we interpret sovereignty in this case is that at least we want to be up to date. Both public sector and private sector has to keep up with the developments in the world that are happening, and we have to equip ourselves and at least be self-sufficient, to have the self-sufficient infrastructure in the country, and to be able to attract and retain and train the talent and the general understanding of AI within the population of Georgia. So once these two bits are done, and our national strategy that we are currently working on relies heavily on the AI education and AI upskilling and reskilling of the entire country. We're all, of course, now negotiating with NVIDIA to bring the cluster of the GPUs and establish AI Excellence Center, and basically we will also be training the Georgian models to integrate the AI in the Georgian public sector and private sector as well. But of course we will be using heavily the architecture of the existing models, which is OpenAI, Gemini, Anthropic, and so on. But we will be, as I mentioned, training the SLMs in Georgian to specifically fit in specific directions like healthcare, public services, and education and agriculture. And once we build the infrastructure, and once we have the Georgian models, and we have these Georgian models deployed in everyday life, I think that's when we will achieve the sovereignty as much as we can, basically.
Thank you. Good start. Peter, Ukraine's context is in general unique. I'm sorry, I'm turning around. I'm trying to see your face. How has the war accelerating your thinking around technological sovereignty and AI's role in resilience? We see that Ukraine is trying to advance in many cases and is using AI for multiple reasons. So we would like to hear your opinion and the advancements and progress related to what's happening in Ukraine.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this interesting discussion. For Ukraine, AI sovereignty, it's not about isolation, it's about resilience, interdependence, the ability to keep safe our state and society under Russian attack, and to protect Ukraine from propaganda, deepfakes, and other aspects and other items which we have faced through Russian invasion. Moreover, Navarro could present the Ukrainian digital transformation from years into months, and made the AI mission to become the leading AI country in public sector up to 2030. And three pillars of our approach: it's a digital state mission transformed to agentic state at scale as resilience infrastructure. Right now we are building AI factory. It's a big data center for processing data. Also we are developing our national large language model. We have launched the first government AI agent that can deliver some government services, not just chat or search information. We are also implementing different defense dual-use solutions in different areas and different cases. For example, through the Russian invasion, where some private companies developing OSINT services, which can help us to detect some propaganda and deepfakes in social medias, and to working with that. Moreover, we are trying to implement European approach and European standards of AI, and we also signed the first AI convention of protecting human rights, and we are trying to implement different approaches which allows us to protect Ukrainians and to provide the new possibilities of using this game changer technology.
Peter, thank you. An interesting fact that both Ukraine and Georgia is actually developing their own LLMs. So, Alexandru, from the corporate side of view, when countries are trying to develop their own LLMs and reach their own sovereignty, how does that clash with the global giants and competitiveness and compliance standards? And how do we make sure that whatever we do is maybe either competitive or related to what a nation stands for?
Thank you, Anna. And thanks a lot for having me here. Hello, everyone. And yeah, I'll actually very much agree with Levan on the statement that the sovereignty is determined by the country's capability to enforce that sovereignty. And Moldova's scale and the current technological development is making us very realistic about what could be reached in terms of sovereignty versus implementation of the standards, global standards, and basically following the global rules. Now, the thing is that when we look, if I would define sovereignty, well, not academically, I'd say that it's not doing everything by able to be doing to do everything by yourself, but rather able to choose your standards, your models, your partners, your implementation architecture. And I guess that's what we need to think about when we talk about countries like Moldova, in terms of governance. It's merely a governance question, because once every ministry or agency starts developing its own tools, models, pilots, network of providers, and understanding of compliance, then it's not sovereignty, it's rather chaos. When the governance coordination is in place, especially on the data governance subjects, on the risk assessments, on the implementation side, then we can talk about the sovereignty and standards not clashing, but actually working together in order to make the general goal of this embracing of the technology in a valid way for a country of Moldovan scale. Let me put it like this. So, I mean, I guess for us, sovereignty is not isolation, as Peter was saying, is rather the capability to integrate deliberately. I'd say that's how I would see it.
Thank you. I'll go back to Peter. So we change a bit the order of our speakers, and then the question would go into how Ukraine is preparing for the EU AI Act. Does it see that there needs to be alignment, adaptation? Is it actually a hybrid model or an isolation?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question, also related to our integration to European Union and our association agreement. We closely discuss different approaches with the European Council, and in 2023 we have developed and provided to public consultation our roadmap, which was integrated to white paper of AI policy in Ukraine, which provided public and private sector some expectation from European integration related to artificial intelligence and also other framework. We have developed bottom-up approach because we understood that it's not the good way under-regulate this new era, we thinking about how can we support our businesses who are developing AI and to provide them the best possibilities to achieve more and to compare with other countries. So we have developed a bottom-up approach which consists of two phases. First phase, it's like the soft law. It's more about recommendations. It's more about self-regulation. It's risk assessment, any ways of support the business who are working in this area. And the second step is implementing EU AI Act in our framework. Through these 2 years, we have developed more than 8 recommendations for different sectors, how to implement AI responsible. We have joined the pilot project of HUDEREA, a risk assessment methodology, and how AI influencing human rights and what companies shall do in this approach. We also have launched the sandbox, which aim to support companies with European standards and with global scale their businesses. We are also launched a self-regulation organization when the companies implement some code of conduct in their approach and to get some responsibilities of development AI more ethical and responsible. And also Ukraine signed the convention, framework convention of AI and human rights. And all of this allows us to prepare our private sectors to the new regulation. And also we are closely discussing with the European Council how do they work with EU AI Act, and we try to understand how this act will influence to European companies and how Ukraine can provide better approach and support to our local companies and integrate them to the future regulation when EU AI Act will be enforced fully.
Thank you, Peter. Alex, my next question goes to you, and it relates to should we, in general, or how do we protect local innovation? Should we, in general, protect local innovation while ensuring trust and safety that would not lead to an over-regulated local industry or local system? Are there any cases in Moldova that you could share where this is the one way or another?
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and it's in the shades of whatever color, pick yours. But I guess we don't have too many options, to be frank. Like Ukraine, we are also part of the EU association agenda, and the EU AI Act has become one of the milestones on our integration. So we have a timeline set in stone, kind of. What we don't know yet, and what I hope we will know in time, is the capability of the country, of the government, to negotiate how that happens, and to which extent you'll have flexibility in transposing those 280 pages of the EU AI Act in a manner which would make innovation still grow and develop. Now, before getting more in detail on this, a curious conversation a couple of weeks ago with one of the key EU negotiators in the recent, relatively recent EU members, And he was talking about to which extent this regulatory enthusiasm might become a business case. So especially when we talk about looking into the bad AI use cases, to which extent that's an exportable product which could put Europe actually on the global map, on the AI global map, as there were two mentioned, of course. Might be there be a third one who would be actually using regulation and knowledge in terms of regulation as something which would help fight with those use cases of the bad AI, which is a good question. I don't have an, but to me it's food for thought to which extent that could be something we can discuss in a broader sense. Now, on Sunday in Bucharest, at another event on AI, it was the same conversation. An EU member, Romania, is still having those conversations to which extent, and they are not discussing the possibility of not adopting it. EU AI Act is mandatory for implementation, but still they are looking for ways to further push innovation to grow without over-regulating and looking into the ways of making that feasible from their standpoint. Now we have more time than Romania. We can still try to explore that in being mindful about what is going to come in time when the EU Act will enter into force fully. And that's where the AI Hub comes in, the initiative we are having, which is not a technological lab, which is a coordination platform. And we aim to build it on the quadruple helix approach. We have an initial memorandum, we have a conversation, we have the ministry, the academia, the private sector, the civil society, everyone on board. The question is how we're building that governance instrument, and we're using that instrument in order to standardize work, use cases, and standards in terms of AI development, so that we can not only use that for consumption of AI products, but also for producing something in Moldova, which would be reasonably scalable to countries like, I don't know, Azerbaijan, for instance. If we have specific use cases we can build, and that would be innovation part of it. And it would look at the economic, social, commercial. Another example is AmCham. We are looking into a tool which would help us build a more intelligent B2B matching across AmChams in the region. That's another way of looking into what innovation might mean, using AmChams as a platform, right? And so on and so forth. So I guess for us, it's a matter of not when or if, it's a matter of how we are making innovation further progress and looking into the regulatory framework which will come, and to which extent, again, that regulatory framework can be used in order to build a business case from. Thank you.
Great input. Thank you, Alexandru. And when we're talking about the larger Europe and maybe the next LLM or next AI coming up, we still have a region, which is the Eastern Partnership region, and all of the countries that are present here are part of it. Levon, do you think there is any prerequisite or any option in general to think of a shared AI related framework in the region, or should we just wait and align to the bigger picture coming from you?
It is a very great question, and I think it should not be just a possibility, it is a necessity, if you ask me from my point of view, because again, the Eastern Partnership countries are smaller countries with, let's put it this way, limited resources. Yes, so, and in case that, and everybody knows that the investments that are required to develop the AI infrastructure and develop the policies and regulate those policies are, quite significant. Now, if before the EU regulations come in, we have to prepare ourselves in any case. So I think that it's very important that the regional countries come together, pull the resources together, and actually start the deployment of the AI generally. And then along the lines, also we can work together with the composition of the framework and the development of the framework that is going to govern the deployment and the development of the AI within this region. I personally think that the EU regulations are a bit a bit too much strict, I would say, and to a certain extent, the strict regulations actually hinder the quick development and quick integration of the AI. That's why I think it's good that we have time before all this comes into effect and before the Eastern Partnership countries and the countries that have the candidate status and are aspiring to become the EU members, before everything is set and everything is harmonized. I think we do have the time to come together and deploy as fast as we can, and basically then build up the regulations after the development phase is done. But yeah, short answer to your question would be absolutely. I think it's necessary. It's not even an optional. I think it's necessary to pull the resources together and come up with a single framework basically, and spend the collaborative resources on the development of AI.
Thanks. So, Alexandru, going back, let's explore a bit the government and private sector relationship and involvement. When we look at AI development, AI integration, AI in the government or in the private sector, in many cases we see that some countries are more advanced on the government side, the others are more advanced on the business side. What do companies need from governments, or what's the way forward to invest confidently in AI, either in Moldova or in the region? What it takes? What is the recipe?
Well, there is no one recipe for all, of course, but I guess if we look at Moldova, what would be the key elements if we are looking at the public sector as a consumer of AI generally, and the lead in development of the AI infrastructure and use cases for business development? Yes, a few elements. First would be the predictability of policies, of course, and that's the foremost, and the decision paths, because we can have the policy transposition like EU AI Act, but how that will happen, we don't know. And since we don't know what the investment would look like, how we can actually estimate any financial projections of any kind under this. That's one. Then interoperability would be the key element, both internally but also on the regional level, because on the regional level, and as Levon mentioned about to your question about Eastern Partnership, it's important to be able to develop products which will not go under a new review from the regulatory standpoint when scaling up and going to other countries. So you need to build something which would be completely doable also in terms of scaling in the countries which are your target, right? So that's interoperability in a broader sense. And the third one, I guess, and the most important from the public-private sector cooperation in building AI products is AI literate public servants. I mean, without the buyers who understand what they want and then can actually explain what's the request and how AI actually can theoretically from their standpoint contribute to their solving their problem, you'll not be able to move on to any solutions. And then what is another, I'm coming back to the AI hub, of course, then the element which is, I guess, another pillar is building the competencies and awareness, right? In the public sector, in the small and medium enterprises, at the small and medium enterprises level, maybe less at the larger enterprises because they have a corporate culture or understanding which is cascaded from the region or from other offices. And that's one of the key elements how you could do this development. And of course, think proactively how the government can have policies which can support incentives and incentivize the development of AI tools and solutions.
Great. You all talk about upskilling and education and infrastructure, which I guess brings a lot of answers to the whole panel that we're having today. My question will go to Peter, and Peter, let me know if you have more time. Building up on what Alex and Levon mentioned and what your interventions related to the efforts of Ukraine to move forward in the digital transformation, the AI factory, the infrastructure, the bottom-up approach that you're doing, are there any specific partnerships or standards that Ukraine could share or implement together with its neighbors?
We are ready to the discussion and try to work in with different private sector and countries. For example, we have different pilots with European Union, for example, the area methodology of risk assessment. We joined, and our law firm joined in the pilot regime of this methodology. And after that, together with Ministry of Digital Transformation, we provided a series of workshops for private sector to explain how does it work and how can they implement this this methodology in their businesses, and how to build more responsible AI. Moreover, we have AI Center of Excellence, which one of the mission to help to drive some AI in the public sector. But moreover, we try to working with the private sector as well. We have the partnership with Google when Google, for example, supported development and provided access to the Gemma, which is open source model, and we integrated Gemma to some e-permit government system. We are also building right now our DIA agent on the Gemini technology, and also, for example, Google and Meta provided some grants for Ukrainian private sector, which also provides them possibilities of development, some tools on AI, and provided some integrations in their workflow. Moreover, some days ago were announced that Ukraine has signed partnership with 11 Labs, and 11 Labs technology will integrate in some government services. And also Ukraine have launched regulatory sandbox where attracted the different experts from the private sector to consulting in the areas of legal, technology, cybersecurity, AI, and help more companies to development AI tools, more ethicals and compliance. And Yuskutum also the one of the experts of this regulatory sandbox. Moreover, we have expert committee which has launched in 2019, which consists of the professional from education, from legal, from AI development, from tech sectors, and we are trying to attract their expertise to consulting with some AI implementation roadmap cases. and to try to build this partnership with the private sector to achieve more. And moreover, we are openly with some collaboration or shared projects with different countries. And for example, it was announced that we will develop united sandbox with Estonia to help more companies to integrate AI and with regulatory compliance.
Thank you, Peter. I'm announcing that this is the last question that will go to Levon, and then we just conclude. Since the aspect of sandbox has been mentioned by Peter, do you think that, and you are working on the national AI strategy, I'm just wondering if you are envisioning anyhow also the implementation of AI-related sandboxes, and whether you are looking at any cross-border possibility sharing or collaboration under these sandboxes?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, together with the National AI Strategy, we are developing the AI Excellence Center. And this AI Excellence Center will be the institution that will also provide the sandbox for the AI developers, basically. And this will be not just for the startups, but basically every company, SME or corporate that wants to do some of the AI development. Basically, we will provide not just the sandbox for the, we'll provide them with the technology, we'll provide them with the access to the computing power, with the access to the expertise, and we'll also provide the, to a certain extent, the regulatory sandbox to play around there. And basically, we'll see how this will integrate within the Georgian context. Of course, through the Excellence Centers, we are also planning to collaborate with basically anybody who is willing to collaborate in this field. We are currently actively searching for the international partners in this regard as well, mainly from the region, but also some from the Western Europe and the US, and hopefully within the next year. So by the end of the 2026, we will, once the Excellence Center is established, we will also have the sandbox established for the Georgian companies and the Georgian private and public sector. And by the end of 2026, beginning 2027, we will be also inviting for the collaborative works with the international partners.
Thank you. A few key takeaways as conclusions, and we wrap up. Although each country faces or has its own way in developing AI and adapting to the global trends, in what means standards, which AI to use, develop their own LLM systems, or a different context, for example, as Ukraine, with the war to advance in this sense, there is a clear effort and a clear path that relates to all the three countries, and that's specifically collaborative models that bring to, and you've mentioned both the AI Excellence Center. In Moldova, it's going to be the AI Hub, which probably can be named in the same way, in a way. You've all mentioned about the AI factories as a key element for the infrastructure component, which would increase the data processing and the capability of a country, which was mentioned. Moldova is also part of the AI Factory program together with the Polish AI Factory. So this is something interesting that it's relevant for all countries. Each country has, in a way, developed or in process developed an AI national strategy. Moldova has adopted the AI EU Act or signed the convention in adoption of the EU AI Act. The other two countries are, in a way, in the process. And it's just a matter of creating a nice framework or a nice collaboration model cross-border, maybe discussing more and maybe seeing how and what challenges are faced in every single country. That would bring to bringing up also the AP countries or the AP region to a higher position in relation to adoption, use, and implementation or development of AI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, speakers. Peter, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And now we switch to a second panel on this hall is Middle East, Central Asia, Caucasus as a single digital market. And I invite Kate Bunina, Director, Silicon Foundry, Qatar. Is he or she here? No. Then let's do a few minutes break before people come. For the next session, I would like to invite the session Middle East, Central Asia, Caucasus as a single digital market. I would like to invite as moderator Kate Bunina, Director, Silicon Foundry, Qatar. Oh! Then we have Ibrahim Nasibov, Country Representative at White Hill Capital. Walid Tarabi, founder of Relic and Platex. Yeah, Khalid Al-Tattan, founder and managing partner, 1K Leaders. Where is he? He just left. He's coming. Okay, Yasser Biaz, CEO, founder of Global Cyber Partners. And we're still waiting for Khalid. Yeah. So I think you could start and then, thank you.
This one.
You needed to come close, then it started. Yes. It was off multiple times. Okay, welcome everyone to our humble panel today. Thank you for joining. I will leave some time for questions, so prepare some. But we have a very interesting panel today on building digital economy bridges between Central Asia, Middle East, and Caucasus to really unite the markets and create one cohesive digital economy. I will go through our dear panelists today. We have Ibrahim Nasibov, country representative of White Hill Capital, where he works at the intersection of innovation and investment. He helps startups from the Caucasus and Central Asia expand into new markets and build meaningful partnerships across the region, such as GCC, very active in Saudi Arabia. Khalid Al-Tattan, founder and managing partner, Leaders Lane, where he helps startups with global expansion as well, building on his previous venture builder, 1K Leaders. Previous to that, he was a founder of trade and supply chain finance division at Kuwait Finance House, and he led deals for over 1.5 billion USD at HSBC Group. Walid Tarabi, founder of Relic and PlantX, and a former advisor to the UAE Prime Minister's office, and a serial entrepreneur focused on building trust in the digital space and authenticity in a fakeable world. He combines government experience with the startup mentality to create technologies that protect truth, heritage, and human legacy. And last but not least, Yasser Biaz, CEO and founder of Global Cyber Partners. Prior to his current technology entrepreneurial ventures, Yasser founded and managed the first university-centric deep tech VC firm in Africa, funded by corporate. He co-developed a global incubator with MIT, a joint accelerator with Plug and Play, and an international deep tech ecosystem, and a technology transfer office. And yours truly, Kate Bunina. I'm a director of Silicon Foundry in Qatar and running accelerator at Qatar Development Bank, currently stationed in Qatar, and I have been in digital economy for 14 years right now. So very passionate about how to create one big market out of the mentioned regions. So to start with, looking at the common digital market in those regions, we need to understand what is working and what is not working right now. And I want to start with the perception of what does single digital market even means and how we can enable it. Ibrahim, would you like to start? We have just one mic.
One there as well. So that's actually an interesting question. Thanks for starting with this point, because this is where I understand what we are talking, how we approach the situation before actually deep dive into the situation. From our organization's perspective, so single digital market means to make digital goods, services accessible without any border. Imagine like startups, companies, and individuals get access to different kind of digital services, products, and networks of different countries without leaving their original place, which includes registration of the company, expanding their business, or getting different kind of access to different services provided by each government, organization, or corporation. And that includes the combination of infrastructure, legislation, and, to be honest, talent and knowledge exchange.
Still working. Yes, Walid. Single digital market, what does it mean? What do you think enables it to truly work, especially from your experience with Prime Minister, but also as an entrepreneur working globally? And we are, just to remind you, we are focusing on Central Asia and Middle East, so we don't count the US here.
So thank you so much for having me. And I think, as I mentioned, I wear multiple hats. And when I was in the government, what really allowed me to jump into the startup world, that the UAE government have a very special kind of mentality of thinking. So number one, it starts from a vision, right? So you have a vision to be number one in the world in specific domain, like government services. And then you have the execution layer. So you might have a vision or a dream, and this is a startup, so you have an idea, and if you don't know how to execute on this idea, then your dream will just collapse. So that's similar in the government, so you have this grand vision that you want to be number one in something, and then if you don't have an execution layer that can take this forward and take it for a long period of time, then the whole thing will collapse. So having a strategy that reflects how government think is essential, and it's inevitable in the government. What we did in the government as a startup, we take, for example, if you take government services, we take a startup in terms of who's the best startup in terms of government, of services. And that case was Amazon. And we take Amazon's strategy and we try to apply it in the government to put the citizen-centric government and see how Amazon is running the government, so how this government will look like. And funny enough, the strategy of Amazon was very simple. It was based on a question that says what is not going to change in the coming 10 years. So they define something called critical constants. And they say, okay, in 10 years, they want more products, more variety of products, they want less prices, and faster. So Amazon don't see in 10 years somebody's coming and say, I want a slower delivery of my shipment, right? Similarly, in the government, we find that the three critical constants for citizens is they want more proactive services, so they want the services to come to them. They want to have more reliable services. Services will not break in the middle, it will be delivered on time and so on. And they want to have more availability. Because if you are a government, you don't have a segment of citizens that you need to choose from. You need to cater from everyone from birth to death, right? You cannot exclude anyone from the state. So that's how the government start thinking on a strategic level. So now if you bring any project on government services and you want to apply your rules on it, you say, okay, what is it? Is it proactive service, or is it a reliability for the service, or is it like a more availability for service? So if I bring a kiosk to deliver government documents, they will say, okay, because it's gonna add another channel of delivery. So that's how we start thinking on a strategic level in terms of how we can execute from a government that think like a startup. The third level was the execution layer. Like how can we break these barriers between government entities? And I'm sure all of your countries have the same. You have these, what they call the ecosystem. It's not the ecosystem, right? Everyone have his own data. Everyone don't want to share. Yeah, they have their security. They have their duplicate of data. In order to lower the barriers and to let these people to speak for the greater value and to put the citizen first, it's twofold. Number one, what are the KPIs that you're measuring? Right? Sometimes we look at the wrong KPI and we think we're doing something good. But to take an example, is like a city in Arizona, Tempe, if I remember correctly. It was public transportation. And the KPI for public transportation is to get from point A to point B in a city in 20 minutes. So I don't care if you take the bus or the taxi or anything. My job as a government is to get you from any point to any point in this city in 20 minutes. And Tokyo airports is getting from the airplane to the door in 4 minutes. So these are good KPIs for the citizen, not for the government. It doesn't care about how many workers are there or whatever. They care about how we make our citizen more happy. So we created a program called Government Accelerators, which is similar to startup, which is an 100 days program. And then you have a challenge, and you bring like 3-4 ministries, different ministries, from the minister level all the way to the employees. And they work from that space for 100 days to get this challenge solved. And this is benchmarked against multiple different countries to make sure that a government can operate like a startup, if this makes sense.
That's incredible, and we see the success of it in UAE and how it's operating in terms of digital economy. And I must say that the example that you gave, ministries submitting the problems and then the public or the startup solving it, was also used in Czech Republic by the government, and it was very successful to the point that they created a standalone NGO for it. So I would love to see more of that in Central Asia being done as well. I will come back in terms of how you see the government working better in GCC, what can be used in Central Asia, and for Ibrahim, you as well, given your background in government. But I want to move to Khalid in terms of what do you see in terms of the digital market, because you're a lot on investment side, on entrepreneurship, on venture building. What do you see in terms of building that bridge between GCC and Central Asia from GCC standpoint?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here. The city is quiet, rich with culture, and I met so much of amazing people. So, and it's my first time in Baku. So, thanks for having us. With regards to investment, so if you look at what is the main benefit of Eurasian countries over here, and specifically Baku, you will have, it's quite rich with regards to the talent, with the technical depth, which we all know that. But let me speak about something that not many people speak about, which is the challenges in terms of how we will be able to create cross-border synergies, how we will be able to scale in terms of towards the GCC. The main reason when it comes to the GCC capital, why we're not, or let's say we're kind of preserved in terms of that, is because of the early stage ecosystems when it comes to the vagueness of it. But what does that mean is there is a lot of opportunities when it comes to post-funding structure. So what does it mean? Let me put it in an example. So let's say a startup over here in Baku would like to expand its regional presence in the GCC. What we do is we look at the GCC as one single country and then leverage on each country based on its arm strength. So, for example, saying that the Baku startup would like to go to the GCC, they would have Bahrain as an open gateway, and they would establish and incorporate their entity over there, and not only to leverage on the talent, but also leverage on the government subsidies that we will be able to provide. And once this is set up, then what we will be able to do is leveraging on between the frameworks among Bahrain and Saudi, where we will be able to scale the Bahraini startups all the way towards Saudi with having cost efficiency and subsidies towards that. Then later, subsequently, in terms of attracting further investment, we will be able to capitalize on the UAE, for example, in terms of investment vehicles, such as like ADGM, such as like the IFC, where we will be able to open and operate SPVs over there. So it's all about value creation in terms of having this regional corridors. At the same time, we leave the IP and the main headquarters here at Baku. So it's more or less of an expansion plans in terms of after creating that, so what comes next? The second phase is to have these joint cross-border synergies where we will be able to have joint funds among GCC investors, and not only that, but also Eurasian investors at the same time. So this is the way where at Leaders Lane, where we operate, what we do is we provide the necessary tools in terms of tailored advisory and business optimization to smart scale and de-risk the ventures to attract investments and make the startup as an investable ready-made product.
Incredible insight. That's exactly what we want with this panel, is not to talk only about that we need to create the bridges between, but what are the actionable insights and steps. So here we heard joint venture fund, enabling and preparing startups before going to the market, and more. And I will get back to this with Ibrahim later on, because I want to hear your insight from being in Central Asia, investing in Central Asia, and what do you see really made a difference in terms of startups transitioning to GCC? Because Khalid brings a lot of knowledge and insight in the market already, but that connection between them is important. But Yasser, I don't want to leave you out in terms of digital markets and connections between them.
Actually, I just wanted to sort of like free-wing a perspective, if it makes sense.
Please do.
Because I know that, as far as, there's a lot of talk about, how to attract GCC investment into the Central Eurasian region. And I think that the case is a lot more reciprocal than that, and it deserves to be said. Because I heard many, many times that, essentially you have access to cheap talent here, or at least that you have the talent, you have, that you have a competitive cost structure, shared business culture, and time zone compatibility. But I think that it leaves out a lot of the context that, I think that we can leverage at least to show the symmetry in between these two relationships. So on the side of the GCC countries, you have capital, you have scale know-how, and you have an advanced framework, policy frameworks, and you have vision, and that vision is based on, economic diversification. So I would like to match that reciprocally on the other side, by, matching the capital with the deep, STEM base, going back to, Soviet academic tradition. You also have a lot of infrastructure upgrade, right? On the skill know-how, so let me just stay on capital. You have also connectivity, physical and fiber. You have energy. So you have a lot that can cater to the investment. So that's why I'm always looking for that symmetry. In the case of skill know-how, there's just, obviously the startups next door. And there is a burgeoning ecosystem, and, infrastructure is being upgraded. So that skill know-how will be extremely useful. Now, on the advanced regulatory frameworks, GCC, will match it here with, a lot of, reforms are actually taking place. And finally, those visions, the number of visions 2030, 2031, 2035 in the GCC have an organic match here because, obviously it's been stated, formally that, the countries are seeking, economic diversification. And so there's that willingness and there's that market. And so the only thing I will add is because for longest time as investors, we're looking for essentially one hub to essentially, get the investment and to essentially, IPO. But now, and honestly, for the last couple of days, I've given it a lot of thought and a lot of look. And I think that the GCC countries or region has become truly like an IPO hub that you would want to aspire to. So that's why I don't think it's a matter of, the region going and fetching investment there. I would love to see that the GCC region also understand that there is like an organic opportunity here. Yeah.
Those are great insights. Thank you, Yasser. I want Ibrahim to follow up on this with what Yasser highlighted. What are the other things that you see, not only in terms of what are the opportunities in Central Asia from the GCC perspective, but what are the challenges for Central Asian and Caucasus startups expanding to GCC, because you are focusing on that with many of them through White Hill Capital?
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting question. So before answering this question, I would like to give some background information about what we are doing in GCC. So we are a Central Asian based fund, and when we invested in the startups, we saw that this market is not very scalable. So the startups needs to go to some other markets to be successful. And there are a few opportunities. One of them is Europe, which is quite legislative country. One of them is US, which is quite competitive. The other one is Southeast Asia, which is not very close to the Central Asia in terms of the cultural background. And in this regard, we found Central Asia startups can go easily to GCC. Not easily let's say this is the most interesting target, because as it was mentioned by Yasser, Gulf has the capital, which is very important, and they have know-how, and they have very interesting vision about the future in terms of the technological development. We started this year to expand Central Asian startups to GCC with some acceleration programs. So we provide soft landing support, we provide mentorship, we provide warm introductions to investors, to some kind of, let's say, corporations, large holdings, which can be their partners. We started in Saudi with 8 startups. Now we are doing another acceleration program in Dubai with the cooperation of Dubai International Finance Center, 10 startups from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And we actually, during the last GITEX, launched our new innovation hub in DIFC, which was supported by IT Park and Astana Hub. IT Park is a government organization of Uzbekistan, while Astana Hub from Kazakhstan, which is actually shows an important point when it comes to the challenges and opportunities. Central Asian countries, and also it includes the Caucasus as well, should put a lot of energy in terms of the government perspective. So government should actually initiate this movement from this area to Gulf. Otherwise, it is just some organizations which are trying to do, which is not like resulting in very good results. On the other hand, when it comes to the specifically startups, so there are a few points. One of them is actually knowing the market, which is actually, I believe, Khalid can help us in next like cohort, because we need really someone who actually tried and failed in the region. And when startups comes from Central Asia to Saudi and UAE, which is quite new markets, they face an important challenge, which is mentioned by Walid, ecosystem. So these guys are actually very successful in Central Asia and in UAE or Saudi or any Central Asian country, so they need a different approach, but they follow the same approach they have previously, which results not like quite good expanding. And also it's very important to note that it's a new market for Central Asian startups in terms of challenge, and it results very long sales cycles for them, especially in B2B side. So even though these are like very, very like quite interesting challenges, we have already succeed some interesting stories. For example, one of the startups that we expand into Saudi, now another partner of us take it from Saudi and expanding them into US, a new market. The same happens in UAE. We help some startups to go UAE, and some of our partners now taking them from UAE into North Africa, which is like another like untapped market in this regard. One of the interesting challenge in this regard is joint funds, which is still mentioned by Khalid, and I guess we need to a little bit deep dive into that point. Since we don't have like very strong success stories, joint funds are not working in this, like let's say years, but the more we will have success stories, the more we will have joint funds or syndicates, which will enable the startups to open some like new capital resources. As of now, when the startups from Central Asia goes to Gulf, so still there is some bias, let's say like challenges for them to raise money. But once we have success stories, which will result in joint funds, actually I believe we will have this issue way less.
May I add on top of what Brian? First of all, thank you, Brian, for thinking highly of us. So, just taking a step back. First of all, with regards to this region and with regards to Azerbaijan, the Eurasian countries, we do resonate a lot on values and principles. So, speaking from a human element, from in terms of workability, from in terms of mindset, all of that, we're quite there. We're quite similar. That's what I noticed, and specifically that I did visited some different countries, and I've seen there is the passion, there is the talent. And you do guys have what it takes in order to scale, not only from a Gulf perspective, but also on a global level. So speaking of that, and in continuation to what the great work that you've been doing, Ibrahim, in terms of incubating the startups of the GCC, as I mentioned earlier, it's always there is a vagueness in terms of, okay, if I invest as a GCC investor, what's in it for me? What's the post-funding support? How can we do that? So what do? We create value. How do we create value? We look at the startup as, we put the startup on a roadmap. And then once we put the startup on a roadmap, it's going to be as a visionary thing that we are here from the long-term perspective. And by doing this, it's creating the entire ecosystem by providing them the tools, the resources, and providing them the tailored advisors where we will be able to provide them access to different kind of multinational advisors and also local advisors for basically the startup success. Once we do that, and trust me, Ibrahim, that I've seen also, like once we do that, we keep the startup on a sustainable roadmap. There is no way when the Gulf capital would meet the talents of Eurasia, it won't be a success. It's the contrary. It's actually gonna result in a huge success, and not only from the Gulf, and perhaps even from the Gulf to even other markets in a different, in a global stage.
I'd like to comment on few initiatives that are maybe ideas on how government of the UAE is trying to push the startup market. And one of the things that was launched 3 weeks ago was a program called Startup Capital of the World. So they want UAE to be the startup capital of the world. And this is not only by saying this, so by offering startups some low barrier entry to the market. This included in Dubai Future Foundation and AI accelerators of Dubai Future Foundation. And this is important because what they do, they bring the startup. If you have a relevant solution for the government, and yesterday my friend Abdullah from Qatar was saying that they want the government to work with a startup, but for a startup to register in the procurement system of a government, it's kind of impossible. So the procurement system is not friendly for startup. They cannot afford the payment terms of the government. They cannot afford to pay the performance bond and the tender bond and all the standards that the government put. So how you want the startup to lose 90% of the market, which is the purchase of the government, and you want them to flourish in your market if you don't lower that barrier to entry. So one very interesting fact that Abdullah was suggesting a project. I don't know if it's confidential or not, but you can ask him. So that's a very interesting idea that Abdullah came up with. But in the UAE, what they do, they bring startups to specific challenges for the government entity. So let's assume that you're working with oil and gas, you're working with electricity, whatever startup you're in, they match you with a government entity on an MOU basis. You say, okay, this is the challenge of the government, this is your startup. You work together for 10 weeks, okay? And if you achieve the required outcome of this 10 weeks, then it becomes a contract. And suddenly this startup had his first client and he had the ground running, right? And it's a government reference, he proved the market fit, he tested his product and it's working. Then it can be like, you can think about it as carving out this startup to offer services to other government entities, which was successful for Estonia. What I wanted to highlight that there is no one size fit all. So what is working in the UAE might not work here and vice versa or any other word. So you need to find your own formula for this to work in your market. The third point is for government to think as a VC, okay? So if the government is thinking as a VC, that means they have to put multiple bets on different horses, right? So you have these kind of startups. I'm okay to lose 9 of them. If one of them deliver, then this is my next unicorn. So I'm okay to lose some money on some startups if they fail, and that's okay, 100%. It's a VC mentality. So if you adopt this as a government, right, it's okay. Let's try a few things with these people, and the cost of failure can be borne by the government because anyway, it's not going to damage the economy. You're paying salaries for people, you're paying it back to the economy, so it's not a bad thing. One of the things that also to avoid brain drain is like you don't want your talents to leave the country. I've seen a program, I'm not sure which country was it, but if you are a startup and you raised $1 million foreign investment into your startup, the government gonna double that and give you $2 million on top to stay in country and deliver your value from your country. So these are some ideas that you can benefit from or you can replicate if it fits into your market. But I think these are, again, on the government thinking as a startup and vice versa. Nevertheless, the government have much bigger mandate, okay? You need to sometimes change the law, you need to change regulation. There are multiple things in the government. It's like a massive mammoth, right? It's not easy to change. So that's they created something called Reg Lab, which is a regulation lab. That means even if crypto is not regulated, even if metaverse is not regulated, NFT is not regulated, you still can play in that space with the government within 6 months. And then they will check what it takes to change the regulation, basically to fit into the startup. So this is a two-way street between government and startups. Sorry if it was that long.
May I add on top of that as well? Like, yes, you're absolutely right, because so while we're speaking to the government of Bahrain, we just launched CBDCs, and with regards to that, the government was mentioning, look, we're open to have the legislation change, we're open to have basically the legislation amended, etc., as long as there is a use case example. Not just this, but also from a personal perspective, when I established the venture builder, so we operated in ADGM, and the regulators over there, because we were like a unique kind of venture builder, we were not doing it on a traditional way, and it was unorthodox. So that's why they were like happy to listen to us, for us to pioneer these kind of regulations along with us in a safe environment with them, in order to proceed with what, as Walid says, well, no, there's no one solution that fits all, but it can open the kind of traction to different kind of startups to operate in.
Incredible. I love all the insights. I mean, conversation is just flowing. You don't even need a moderator. With all these insights that you have shared, one of the things that will come up, of course, is shared governmental cybersecurity, because in order to build such infrastructures, in order to really empower the digital economy, there will be a question of, is the data safe? Is something that we are sharing between the regions should be shared or should be kept private? And on cybersecurity, yes, sir, I want to give you a mic and share some of your insights into digital cooperation. How can countries in our region collaborate, but also build that sovereign cyber systems that are safe to use? Right. Especially with AI coming up, there's a lot of fraud questions. And Walid, I will come back on the fraud to you as well.
Yeah, thank you. So AI is a different animal. So let's just, tackle, cybersecurity maybe in a more generic kind of matter. So I know that a lot of people, there has been a lot of talk about sovereignty, so I'll try to approach it from a different angle. So sovereignty is control, protection, and governance. And so essentially what we're trying to do is balance between, the trade-offs between trust and sovereignty. And it's a tricky measure, even as individuals. When you're using a Google or something like that, I mean, you want for trust to be there, but you don't want too much control. You want a single sign-on. So at the nation-state level, it's trickier. And so the question is, do we have modular, interoperable kind of architectures and system to provide for a secure, seamless data flows, cross-border across the region? And so the way I want to steer at least my comments or my intervention is essentially how to take this discussion from safeguard to enablement. Enablement of what? Boosting investor confidence and attracting capital. So that's the part of like cybersecurity, kind of enablement I'm looking for. So I would like to pitch in, 4 thoughts or ideas. So, for example, we could go with decentralized technologies, decentralized and zero trust technologies. And what that will give is essentially remove any dominance from any single entity. So everybody's equal. Everybody can kind of cater to their local law because you're using a decentralized system and it's blockchain-like. So that could be one approach, or at least one thing, to think through. The other one is open source threat intelligence platforms. And so what this allows for is essentially, transparency and verification for audits. Because if, for example, one country is using a proprietary system and the other one another proprietary system, then they cannot even share what type of threats are mounting. And sometimes, the threat may be mounting there, but to attack me and then to go to somebody else. So this would be a good measure, and it's reassuring again to the investors. Another approach, a third kind of like element is kind of like harmonized incident response. And so this prevents from market fragmentation so that everybody responds in the same way. I recall this experience a long time ago in Asia Pac, where, essentially a number of us in the US and, elsewhere, throughout the world, we kind of deployed countermeasures to stop these, DDoS attack, distributed denial of service kind of attacks. And the other operators in these other 2 countries were not part of, that common kind of incident response team. And so a lot of weird things were happening on their network. And so you want to at least take care of that. The fourth is regional cybersecurity alliance, and this is really important to have, essentially, a common regulatory framework, and it also enhances the collective kind of, posture and readiness. I'll just add this kind of item. It was just like bugging me. It was in my head. I needed to get it out, and I think that I can lend it to the trust system. So we probably need, across or throughout the region, a transparent individual and startup repository. So the thing is that when you're asking somebody in one place to do due diligence in the other place, it's very costly. It adds friction to the investment, and also to be able to validate trust in a person, trust in a company. So that's that for at least this balancing of trust and sovereignty.
One thing to add, Kate, as well. So looking at it from a startup angle, how we will be able to create. First of all, we have a lot of treaties signed between Eurasian countries and the GCC. So since we have a lot of treaties signed and FTAs, we will be able to leverage on that. So the way we need to look at it is from bottom to top approach. What does that mean? So if a startup is operating in Baku, let's say they go establish in Bahrain, we do have the regional AWS data host center over there where we will be able to leverage on that. And once we leverage on that, we will be able to have use cases to have multiple startups in terms of having these kind of data centers, or let's say leveraging on the data centers in AWS. And once we do that, then we will be able to go and pitch for the governments as use cases in order to have G2G initiatives with regards to any kind of cross-collaboration in terms of sandboxes, in terms of data protection laws. And once I think and I believe we have these bilateral cross-border on a national scale, we will be able to have it on a regional scale eventually.
I may add just one point on the sovereignty bit. So today we've heard about Star Cloud, and people are trying to send satellites and put GPUs in the sky because they have sun and it's colder out there. And I think it's cold enough here, and you have enough energy. So building a sovereignty data center, I think with the AI war, or the race to be the AGI, or artificial superintelligence, the main scarce resource is going to be energy and compute. So how much GPUs and how much compute you have and how much power do you have. You're blessed in this part of the world as much as the GCC with energy, but at the same time you have a colder weather. So it's a much better fit to build your own sovereignty data centers today, collect as much compute as you can, and make it as your center of excellence or your LLM test bed, or make it available for startups to build the next thing on a sovereignty way in your borders. At the same time, you get a geopolitical advantage, because in the future, it's about how much tokens are being allocated for you, right, to process, be it your autonomous cars or your guy who's sitting in the garage asking ChatGPT about the next startup that you want to build, and how you're going to prioritize these kind of tokens. So maybe I'm stating the obvious, but building enough data centers and compute in your countries can be a huge advantage on being sovereign, at the same time enabling startup ecosystem.
I want to follow up on this because you have such an insight and expertise on digital identity tech. And we mentioned it, it's been mentioned multiple times, unified digital market, data protection sandbox, individual startup directory, no dominance of single entity, regional cybersecurity alliance, and all of this. But it comes back to the shared digital identity. And that's a very sensitive topic because it holds a lot of private data. How do you see that in terms of building that unified digital market? What are some of the challenges or maybe insights that you want to share on it?
To be honest, now everything can be faked, as we know, especially in the digital world, right? So keeping your identity safe is a very complicated task. And the cybersecurity experts can tell you, to the extent that you can have deep fakes and you can have money transfer. I think the case was $25 million transfer over a Zoom call with the CFO from a guy in Hong Kong. So he thought it's his CFO where it was not his CFO, basically. So it's very difficult, and I've worked with a couple of startups right now that they are working on how they can create a signature or voice. Like even our voice right now can be faked, and they can make us say things that we're not saying on the stage, and how they can basically detect deep fakes. So this is very important. From government perspective, the challenge with the government that almost always they apply the maximum level of security no matter what you want to do with them. And that's where we created different grades of understanding of your identity based on what you want from the government. And this can be applied in the digital world. So for example, if I want to give a suggestion or a complaint to the government, I don't really care. They don't really care about my ID, right? They want to get the feedback. So I can tweet about them, and they don't care about my ID. But if you ask me about my UE pass and my Emirates ID, if I want to file a complaint, I would be very hesitant to provide feedback. The second level, if you know that I already have a service, like I already have my ID, I want to renew my ID or my driving license, you don't really need much understanding of my ID because you already know everything. You have my fingerprints, you have all my details in your system. The third level is like if it's my first time in the UAE and I need to issue a new ID for you, I need your iris scan, I need your fingerprints, I need you to be present somewhere. And the third level, or the fourth level, which is the most complicated, is in a case that you're doing something that major. Let's say that you want to divorce your wife, God forbid, or you want to sell your properties to your newly wed 18 years old. So you need to appear in front of a notary public where you need to make sure that you're in straight mind, okay? And you know what you're doing. So applying these levels of understanding of your identity and what's the criticality of the task that you're doing, okay, and matching them, I think this is a key for making it usable and user-friendly. At the same time, it's providing the level of security and assurance required for the other party to trust you and give you the services.
Thank you. You know what they say, when you're having fun, time is passing by very quickly. And unfortunately, we are reaching the end. But the last but not least question, and then we hold the mic to someone else, because the topic is reuniting those markets and really creating one digital market out of it. What is one next step that you would recommend to be done to truly connect those markets and enable one digital united market? One of the steps. And I know you mentioned throughout the panel a few of them, but choose one.
To unify the market. So we've been talking about digital transformation, and so it's essentially, it feels to me almost like, you know, you're trying to get investments for something that your investor wants. And I would wish for the region to sort of like, you know, essentially establish its own thesis. So as far as where it wants to go. So there's the 0-day type of opportunity, which is, you know, what do we do, you know, to be able to match, you know, your funds to our projects. But, you know, I would love to see what type of new projects you would like to pursue for the future of the region. And so maybe, you know, even digital transformation is a nomenclature that is evolving even now. So for example, things that you would not have called, you know, part of digital transformation are now part of digital transformation, especially the life sciences. And so in the region, there's a lot of STEM talent, and especially with AI going like vertical, there is an opportunity to essentially apply it, for example, in biotech, in health, medical, and the like. And so that's why I would love to be able to see like a new thesis that, you know, comes out of where you want to lead the country. So you see what I mean? So you have these two parallel tracks. It's where everybody else is going, but where are you equipped singularly to be able to go? And
Wonderful.
so, yeah, the infrastructure that goes with it, I mean, is of course, I mean, plenty. So there's, yeah, you need to, you know, leverage the compute, but then bring in, like we said, like the vertical capability and knowledge that the region possesses and others may lack.
Those of you who are watching online live, take notes.
Yeah, so one of the things I would like to see is cross-collaboration among ecosystem enablers, for example, the incubators, the accelerators, where we will be able to provide, to have value-driven opportunities for the startups and the scale-ups to shine over basically both regions. And at the same time, which will lead, as Ibrahim mentioned earlier, in terms of having joint funds. So if we will summarize that, what would like to see in the next year's time is we would like to have a set joint fund among ourselves, hopefully, inshallah, that we will be able to have create value, create thesis for not just only inflows, but both actually inflows and outflows.
I will wear the startup hat now. So if the guys are paying the money here, I think what I will do.
Please speak for the people.
Yeah, for the people. So for the people, I will say that let's run it as a startup. So if these two regions want to collaborate and build something big, then everyone need to put on the table what they have. And what they have is they have the talents, they have the weather, they have the data center, we have the go-to-market strategy, we have the requirements, we have marketing skills. So it's like two co-founders are speaking about a startup, right? So we have the fund now. This is what you need to do, this is what I need to do. So what I think is you have a huge talent pool. It's amazing engineering house that I will, if I'm building a startup, I'm gonna use your resources as my engineers, right? I'm gonna build the branding and the go-to-market and the sales offices in Dubai because it's the launch pad to the world, or in Bahrain or in Saudi. It's not one size fit all. So this recipe might work for one startup, another startup might be the other way around. So I can be the engineering house in Saudi or in Bahrain, and then you can be my go-to-market into a different region, as long as the money is there.
Great, so no brain drain is made. And Ibrahim, please, your insight.
Yeah, it's very similar to what has been discussed. I would like to just say knowledge exchange because in mainly government level, because one of the critical challenges in this regard is the legislative frameworks, which is like not similar to each other in terms of Kazakhstan, in terms of Uzbekistan, in terms of Azerbaijan, or in terms of any like GCC country. So I believe knowledge exchange in this regard, where government exchange the ideas how to make the legislation better and how to make each legislation similar to each other. So the startups or the companies will not face problem when they go to another country would be an interesting starting point.
Thank you so much. And like this, we need to wrap up. Thank you for your attention. Thank you to the speakers.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, speakers. Now we move back to the hall 1. You want to take a picture? Go ahead. While I'm speaking, they're taking picture. And then we go back to hall 1 for our talk with Radwal. And we go to coffee break, sorry. So enjoy the coffee. Good evening again, and we start our last sessions for today, and topic for discussion in this hall is education, digital literacy and skills in public sector. And I would like to invite our moderator, Lika Merabishvili, Regional Director for Caucasus, StrategEast. The speakers, Steffi Stallmeister, Country Manager for Azerbaijan, Europe, Central Asia, World Bank. Vera Ignatieva is joining us online. She is Customer Success Director from EMEA at Coursera. Emilia Ahmedova, Head of Innovations and Research Center at Baku Higher Oil School, the School of Sokar. Inara Valieva, Advisor to the Chairperson, Baku Metropolitan. Tak napisano. And Aziza Vidadi, Head of the Analysis and Monitoring Department, Center for Analysis and Coordination of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The stage is yours.
Thank you. So good evening. This is last session today. And you know that you are attending now the forum, say, Shaping the World with AI. And we have very good speakers here, and also a topic is, I think, very interesting. So our panel title is, what it was mentioned, is Digital Literacy and Skills in the Public Sector. So today we'll explore how we can develop digital competencies, not only within the government institutions, but also amongst small and medium-sized enterprises. So we will discuss how universities, training programs, and innovation hubs can prepare the workforce for AI-driven economy, and how continuous education and lifelong learning can help both governments and businesses keep pace with rapid technological change. I am truly delighted to be joined by an exceptional group of speakers here, and let me introduce them. It was mentioned the names, but I will just introduce with a small bio. Steffi Stallmeister, as it was mentioned, it's country manager for Azerbaijan, Europe, and Central Asia at the World Bank. Steffi has over 20 years of professional experience across East Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Today, she leads the World Bank's engagement in Azerbaijan. Vera Ignatieva, Customer Success Director for EMEA at Coursera. Vera is a passionate advocate for lifelong learning. She leads Coursera's partnership with governments, universities, and enterprises across Europe and Central Asia. And we have Emilia Ahmedova, Head of the Innovation and the Research Center at Baku Higher Oil School, Sokar. Emilia brings rich experience in innovation management, startup mentorship, and project leadership. Inara Valieva, advisor to the chairperson at Baku Metropolitan. Inara is responsible for human resource development and also educational initiatives within the Ministry of Digital Development and Transport of Azerbaijan. And Aziza Vidadi, Head of the Analysis and Monitoring Department at the Center for Analysis and Coordination of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, so the big title. With more than 8 years of experience in digital transformation, Aziza is also an AI for Government Ambassador and a member of the World Economic Forum's Fourth Industrial Revolutions Network. Thank you all the speakers to be here. I'm really honored to be here, the moderator. And I will discuss, we can discuss the first question, maybe as it will be to you. So, from your perspective, because you have a great experience working with SMEs, what do you think? What kind of skills are most critical for public officials and also small to medium enterprises at the age of AI?
Thank you very much. It's a very hot topic today, and I would like to highlight from the global statistics, maybe, since we are part of the World Economic Forum. There is a report called Future of Jobs, and it is published every year at the annual Davos Forum. So there is a statement that not only technological change, but also geo-economic fragmentation, economic instability, demographic shifts, and green transition are the main forces that will transform the employment ecosystem, and there will be 170 million jobs created, and 92 million jobs will be declined. And a report also states that 40% of the current skills are going to be transformed, and 60% of the employees will need upskill and reskill. So I would like to, since we are working very closely with SMEs as a Ministry of Economy, the adaptivity to the technological change is very important, because the competency is very high in the era of AI. And in my opinion, the SMEs especially have to have data literacy. So digital literacy is very important. Analytical thinking is very important in this area for the SMEs. And of course, the adaptive intelligence is the most essential skills. And in regard to the public officials must focus on the data-driven governance to prepare holistic strategies, vision of the government, and so on. They have to practice strategic foresight for better predicting the technological shift and challenges that are waiting for the government, and of course building organizational agility and digital adaptability. These are the main skills that SMEs and public officials need. And I would like to also mention that there is a fast pace. For example, farm workers, construction workers, and delivery drivers and salespersons are the most growing jobs in the employment era. And in contrast, the administrative clerks, for example, assistants, are going to be declining very fast. And what I find the most interesting, the nursing, teaching, and social workers are going to be grow also, alongside with the technology-related skills, such as AI, machine learning specialists, data analysts, and so on.
Thank you. And next question, Emily, it will be to you. So you are greatly involved in education and institution and also innovation. And what do you think, how can educational institutions and government work together to modernize IT curricula and better prepare the broader students for emerging technologies?
Yes, thank you first of all. Really appreciate for the invitation. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. Yes, pleasure and honor to be here. In terms of the IT curriculum modernization and increasing the digital competences, I would like to mention it stands really at the very core of the national strategies. It's one of the important national priority for the Azerbaijan. If we will go and analyze such a strategies, governmental, let's say the policies like social economic development of Azerbaijan for 2022-2026, as well as national priorities for social economic development for Azerbaijan 2030, as well as even if we analyze the law on education, general education, law for vocational education, as well as the flagship programs or governmental initiatives like STEAM education, STEAM Azerbaijan, as well as digital skills, such kind of the project, we'll see that really is one of the priorities of Azerbaijani government. But when it comes to the specifically, precisely on the question that you asked, I would rather say that along with the, if we want to find the, the comprehensive response, along with the government from one side, as well as the education institution on another side, we should also not forget another third party, which is actually equally important. I would rather say that even the more important, so-called triple helix model. So in this case, we should also put emphasis or bring into the stage the businesses as well, industry as well. So only with the help of the close cooperation and collaboration of the government, education institution, as well as industry, we can achieve, let's say, be able to develop, to modernize IT curricula, because anyway, what we're doing with the IT programs, we are developing the, nurturing the needed skills, but for whom? For the industry in this case, so we should get their opinion. It's also very important to get the needed statistics from the industry in terms of the what kind of the, let's say, the IT skills specifically will be needed in the near future, in the later future, later on, so that while modernizing this curriculum, we'll go in the right track. It's very important. Another important aspect that should also be mentioned, that even with the good strategies, you know, the implementation is important. It cannot be done from the needed financing, from the, you know, without building the proper infrastructure, hardware, softwares, and so forth. It's very important if you're talking about the modernization and later teaching it at the educational institution. It doesn't matter at the higher education level or secondary education level. So it's very important also to finance the building the needed infrastructure. Maybe again with the help of the businesses, industry as well, but it mostly should lie on the shoulder of at least at the very first stage, at the shoulder of the government. And another important aspect is that you might have this good infrastructure, but if you don't have the needed human resources for teaching it, again, you will definitely fail. So that's why also the, you know, coming up with the faculty development programs, it should be another very important aspect on how, you know, with the joint efforts, IT curricula can be modernized at the education institution across Azerbaijan. Appreciate.
Thank you. Steffi, you have great experience at World Bank, regional experience, and what do you think? What kind of like role is digital literacy play in ensuring effective governance and also broader economic transformation? Will be interesting your opinion.
No, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to be on this panel. Digitalization clearly will enable to improve transparency, citizen engagement, but also accelerate economic transformation and growth, as we heard already earlier. But I think what will be critical is also to make sure that we're not increasing the digital divide. So to make sure that we bring everybody along. That does not mean that everybody has to be a digital or like a data scientist, but at least have to be sufficient literacy, digital literacy to participate in the more and more digital economy and does not lose out on economic opportunities. But let me first look at some of the how digitization can improve governance. So let me highlight 3 delivery ways. One is, of course, enhanced access to information. Digitization increases the public access to information, makes information and processes more visible and more participatory. The second is that there's improved accountability because of this increased transparency and also increased citizen engagement. There are many tools people can, you know, report back and report on things which are not working, so that makes the participation and also the ownership in processes by the citizens much stronger. And the third is, of course, the streamlined processes and the decreased bureaucratic burden. So there is another great way how governance can be improved. In terms of the digitalization and the role in economic growth, I think the biggest evidence is most of the, or nearly all of the 10 top companies by market capitalization are digital firms. So I think this is clear evidence. And some, maybe 3 other data points. Improved access to the internet has direct impact on GDP growth. It's estimated that a 10% increase in broadband penetration raises GDP by 1.4 to 1.6% in Europe and Central Asian countries, so that's quite significant. Digital service sector is also the fastest growing globally. And digitization is a job creator, both new and more jobs, and we heard already some numbers there. And the estimates vary depending on who you ask, but it's clearly that there is a huge transformation in the landscape. For this to work, of course, the digital transformation, it's absolute, and we heard about this already, the digital literacy is absolutely required. So, and this is where the education institutions come in, but it's not only the the schools and universities, but also ensure that lifelong learning is provided for. And in Azerbaijan, the digital access and skills have improved significantly over the last 5 years. And we heard already, some initiatives from the government in terms of improving the digital skills across many groups. But again, there is still a 7 percentage point gender gap in internet use and a 5 percentage point gap in digital literacy between men and women. So there clearly, like in many, if not all countries, there is a digital divide and gap. So this is something not only the Azerbaijan government, but many governments in the world have to tackle. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned women, and always when I go to IT or tech events, there are only, or not only, but 90% men. And now we are here, women power. Okay, next question is to Inara. So if we look in the future, what do you think? How can we build a culture of continuous digital learning across both public and private sectors? In that could be possible, the workforce remains adaptable and in an AI-driven economy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. So, well, when it comes to culture, I think it's one of the most challenging areas because we are talking about change, but then at the same time, the things we're discussing here, we're talking about fourth revolution, right? So there were several before. So it's not something new. The jobs were created and they were stopped as well. Always in the history, so we know that we can learn. The thing is, what is the role of companies and what is the role of government in this triangle, let's say, when the third party is employees, actually. So there are countries that have experience of government subsidizing or providing tax incentives for the companies when they invest into development of the human capital. This obviously supports a lot because there is always this question in the mind of HRs and CEOs, how much should we spend? And especially considering that the time that employees spend on their jobs, well, it's currently, very quickly, the knowledge that they have is outdated, so it's super important that they get it updated very soon. So companies should be motivated by government through incentives, through programs. For example, currently, Ministry of Economy has launched for several years already, together with Coursera, the program that has covered around 100,000 people, as far as I know, right? And there were programs that were launched by Ministry of Digital Development and Transport, which covered more than 10,000 people. So this direct investment into human capital development is also very important, which gives opportunity for those who have outdated jobs. Even within the ministry that I represent, there are organizations where we have many jobs that are becoming outdated with move to GPON, for example, when it comes to telecommunications, or even within transportation. So investment into reskilling of those people is very important. At the same time, for companies, it's much more cheaper to invest into upskilling and reskilling of their employees rather than looking for professionals in the areas that they're looking for that would fulfill the jobs that they expect to. So it's the job of every one of us, including employees themselves, who need to remember that they don't want to be outdated at some point of time, but also government and the companies themselves to build this knowledge throughout the time.
Yeah, thank you. Vera is joining us online. So based on your experience, can you tell us what kind of trends or digital skills are necessary and important right now in the public sector and also business?
Hello everyone, and hello from London. I'm glad that I can join online. Do you hear me okay? Yeah. So I wanted to share a few trends we're seeing in Coursera, and also mention the Future of Jobs report, which we, Aziz already mentioned, and we work in close collaboration with World Economic Forum. So let me share my screen, as I have convenience of sharing the screen online. In Coursera, we now have around 191 million registered learners, and annually we publish job skill report, where we look at where our learners are enrolling, what are the most in-demand skills. So we see major three trends, not surprisingly, huge interest in Gen AI, machine AI learning, but also data ethics, governance, and protection of the data and risk management are also very much important trend. And the new trend for this year is business skills, human skills. So we're seeing, for example, in context of public sector, we see civil servants upskilling initiatives, not just to learn AI, but also data analytics for smarter, more transparent policy making, and also a safe way of using the data, knowing what it is to protect your data. Therefore, we see governments as well as companies launch simultaneously data literacy, AI literacy, and cyber literacy programs together. And as we see our learners come to Coursera mostly to improve their career outcomes, we're also looking at jobs. So I'll show you, this is the Future of Jobs report from World Economic Forum, which we're seeing global trends of most jobs are popular. It's big data, fintech, AI, machine learning specialists. And interestingly, electric vehicle specialists are coming in place. So it shows us the focus on green energy. And on the right, you can see Coursera own research, where we see what are the top trending skills associated with this, jobs on the left. And what we see here, half of those skills are tech skills, but also human skills, business skills are coming into importance. You can't drive innovation without humans collaborating, speaking with each other. Therefore, you can see here, stakeholder communication, assertiveness, business communication are in-demand skills. And we just launched a role play on Coursera, so our learners can interactively practice those skills as well, because it's a huge demand, not just for skills, but also for practicing those skills. So probably to finish off the overview, we see that in public institutions, especially in businesses, it's recognized that innovation doesn't come just from technology alone. It comes from people who can think creatively. Therefore, creative thinking, critical thinking is a hugely important skill, as well as people need to solve complex problems and work together efficiently.
Thank you, Vera. Steffi, I have another question. So, based on your experience from World Bank's regional perspective, so what policy frameworks or investment models has proven the most effective in fostering continuous digital learning and AI readiness within the public sector?
Thank you so much. I think if the answer were so easy, we wouldn't discuss it and then we would implement them already. So there's really...
Like easy answers.
And there's really no ready answer for this question. And still many countries are still trying to figure out how to handle AI properly and how to get AI ready across the economy, but also in the public sector. And I mentioned earlier that AI, of course, presents a great opportunity to improve government services, how government functions. But I think we need to look at key fundamentals first. One is data, and we need to be aware that AI runs on needs available data and needs interoperable platforms, and that needs to have the right digital infrastructure, but also the laws and regulations need to be in place. So this is absolutely critical. And the second we heard already are the people. So the people need to be equipped to have the skills to actually understand what is good data, what is bad data. We just heard about deep fakes. How do you see or identify deep fakes? And so I think this is, it becomes nearly like as important as reading and writing. I think that was something that everybody needs to be able to read and write in the public sector, same as with AI skills. And I think a good starting point for that is, and the government is working on that, if not already established, is kind of a framework, a skills framework. We have clear definitions, what kind of skills do we want for what kind of job. And I think Austria has a good example for that, like many other countries. And also the continuous learning. And these kind of skills or standards need to be embedded in human resource processes, in incentives and rewards of the public service as well. So, and I think you mentioned also the public-private partnerships, and I think the private sector will always be ahead of the public sector. It's just by definition, if you are not up to par, you're going to go out of business. And therefore, learning from the private sector, these partnerships, I fully agree, are absolutely critical to make sure the public sector is up to date, and also that the public sector is equipped to mitigate the risk involved in AI. Thank you.
Thank you. And another question to Vera. So you work at Coursera and you have great experience. It's a great platform. I also use, I'm sure everyone is using or has used at some time. So what do you think such kind of like platforms, how they can strengthen partnership with local universities and also innovation hubs to build practical, future-oriented digital skills for both public officials and also SME employees?
Thank you, Lika, and I very much agree with Inara and Emilia saying that, and Steffi saying that public and private sector should collaborate in this upskilling efforts. And we are very active in Central Asia. As an example, we work with the Ministry of Economy in Azerbaijan. And actually up to date, we have now 50% growth of learners over the last year alone. So now we have 228,000 learners on Coursera, and 48% of them are female, which is great to see this diversity and inclusion. And that's how Coursera started, with a mission to bring quality education to everyone. And this is the perfect example how we work with Ministry of Economy, but also major companies like Sokar and Pasha, our sponsors. And then we have learners from all different backgrounds. We have civil servants, we have corporate students, we have teachers, we have university professors, and the age gap is between 13 to nearly 79. But within these efforts, the government was very focused in rolling out this program. So we had learning track recommendations focused on AI upscaling for all, but also for entrepreneurs, for women leadership, for oil and gas sector. So very focused learning tracks. And the second success of our program is localization. So with AI, and Coursera is not just a content platform, but also a tech platform. We're using AI innovations. We now dubbed top 15 courses in Azerbaijani. So our top professors can speak not just English, but also French, Italian, and Azerbaijani, which is fantastic to see. All those top courses by enrollments are those courses we translated and localized. And we see learners coming from all different areas, and especially rural areas as well in the country. The other program we're running in the region of Central Asia is slightly different way of collaboration in Kazakhstan, where we have Ministry of Science and Higher Education leading this upskilling effort, and they connect us with 100+ universities, where Ministry provided a few reforms about 3 years ago, and now all these universities are integrating Coursera into their curriculum. So which means they can provide up-to-date learning tracks and upskill students with the real-time skills. And a big focus is, of course, on AI and AI upskilling. So we see that almost all the students in Kazakhstan have taken AI courses. So these are just a few examples, but I'm very, very grateful for this cooperation we have in Azerbaijan, and it's a great use case of this triangle of public sector, government, businesses coming in place, and also universities.
Thank you. Aziza, from your perspective, what collaborative approaches could help small businesses in Azerbaijan access digital training, also adopt AI tools, and stay competitive in this big market? Maybe not only in Azerbaijan, but if you can discuss also about the region, will be helpful, I think. For me at least, because I'm from Tbilisi.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So there is an international research on the digital transformation of organizations, and it is believed that only 97% that organizations that are willing to digitally transform themselves are reaching only use case implementation and their own company transformation. But only 3% of the companies are reaching the final success. So they are not only transforming themselves digitally, but also their ecosystem. And to do so, we have seen that small, medium, and even large enterprises sometimes are facing the difficulties, especially in the financial and human resource challenges when it is coming to the AI adoption for their businesses. And we have some approaches, for example, public-private partnership, the use case of Coursera or other partnerships. We have been also partnering with StrategEast in 2023 regarding the IT Hub project, and it was very successful. Even some of the students got employment.
Half
of them, half of them. So another point could be shared infrastructure. For example, Ministry of Economy currently is working in the establishment of the supercomputer center, where it will open the doors also to the businesses, small and medium enterprises, to come and
what does it mean, supercomputer?
It will give the high computing power. Like it is 1.3 petaflops supercomputers, and we'll be establishing a center where public, private, industry, universities can come and make research and develop their ideas, projects, and maybe in sandbox mechanisms will be also established. Currently, we are surveying collecting the needs of the ecosystem. And another point could be incentives, like tax incentives, as Ms. Inara Valieva mentioned, and support from the government in financial format. For example, last year we have started to pilot Industry 4.0 readiness program. What we are doing, we are going, we have launched a special platform where companies are applying. They are willing to digitally transform themselves. And after some requirement process, we are prioritizing the organizations that is specific to the industries. For example, it could be education, it could be healthcare, it could be mining, and other stuff. And after the evaluation process is done, we are diagnosing their digital maturity, if their technological and green maturity is ready to start the implementation of technologies. And after this phase, we are preparing technological and green transformation roadmaps tailored for each organization. So there could be more than 50 initiatives of how you can use AI in human resources management and logistics and so on. And so far, last year, we have started with 3 pilot companies, big ones, 1 middle and 2 big ones. And this year, we have reached 15 companies. There are small, medium, and large companies. And till 2030, our goal is to reach to more like 60 companies fully digitally transformed, and our aim to get their nomination to the Digital Lighthouse, which is the highest point of recognized from the World Economic Forum. And most of the time we have seen from the transformation roadmaps that human capital development is in the first place, so the small, medium, even the large enterprises their need is to develop their human capital development. And of course, holistically approach the Industry 4.0 readiness and support the SMEs. Our Ministry of Economy, especially Azerbaijani Development Business Fund, also supporting financially these companies that have applied to the Industry 4.0 readiness program. Even they can invest themselves or they can request help from the government, and Ministry of Economy will give like this hand. And we are also in the process of establishment Industry 4.0 Center, where there will be advanced manufacturing line only to showcase, not for the mass production, but to showcase from A to Z how state-of-art technologies could be implemented in the production phase. This, like, regardless of if it is milk production, if it is plastic production, and that's, yeah. And there will be, of course, in this center, we'll be also giving some raising awareness, giving some industry-related trainings also.
Great plans. Inara, what does true digital literacy mean for the near future? What do you think? And how do we ensure that every child in Azerbaijan, and not only here, but maybe the Caucasus region, can become not only digitally literate, but also digitally empowered?
First of all, I think, as I was listening to what we were discussing, I think three main things which cover a lot, actually. So first is starting early. I have two daughters, 9 years old and 15 years old, and even between them two, I see the difference. So my 9 years old, she is into discussing with AI her projects and getting ideas and sharing and improving. And the elder one wants to stick to the sources that she trusts more, and she's a bit more skeptical about AI. So when starting early, when it comes to digital literacy, when it comes to using AI in your everyday, is something that is super important to make sure that we raise these children who are digitally empowered. Second is reaching everyone, and here building on the point of digital divide, well, here I mean both teachers. We are currently working on a double degree program, which will cover some specific areas, fields of education. When we get international experience and together with local institution, higher education institution, we'll launch this program for Azerbaijani youth. But then the question is, who will be teaching that? Are people who are currently teaching within the universities ready to adopt, know, understand the curriculum, the knowledge that will be coming here? So teachers as a separate direction, as mentors for this. Also vocational education, as Aziza Hanım mentioned, all those professions that will be growing as we move forward, all the nurses and others, we definitely need to focus on vocational education, which wasn't a big focus here, unfortunately, but now it is becoming more and more important. And here, private, again, is very much needed because we need to make sure that it's interesting and growing. And reaching everyone, for me, also means creating solutions that are interesting and relevant for everyone. For example, this launch of ÖDV geri al, so basically this getting part of VAT back when you pay legally. That was, it had the purpose of making sure that taxes are paid and so on, and it was adopted very quickly. My mom, who is 65 plus years old, she is using it very actively. Because it's relevant, because it's interesting for her. So creating digital services that are relevant, that are proactive, that require minimum of your action, makes sure that you reach everyone. And then finally, industry, education and government cooperation. We've discussed it a lot today, but this is exactly what we need to do, because without understanding of the industry needs, we cannot make sure that education, which usually is more conservative anyways, adapts quickly enough. So having this generation of digitally empowered people is not about creating AI engineers, it's rather having 9 years old talking to AI for her STEAM project. It's about a farmer who uses AI or other digital solutions for correct forecasts for his own needs.
Yeah, thank you. Emilia, and the last question from my side, and maybe if you have, the audience question, you can answer, but maybe one, but we will not have time for more. So Emilia, how is, you represent Baku Higher Oil School, and how the school collaborates between academia, industry, and also innovation centers to ensure that digital and AI skills translate into real-world impact?
Yes, thank you. For those who are not familiar with the Baku Higher Oil School, I would like to mention that actually it's one of the youngest universities in Azerbaijan, only 13 years old, but it's also one of the promising, very popular as well as the promising universities in Azerbaijan. And it's the, since it's the, the youngest one, it's definitely relatively small. And what I would like to say in terms of the, bringing those AI, let's say the projects, technology into the industry, and how we are achieving it, because I think that since the university that's really put the emphasis on the innovation, and I would rather say that maybe the innovation that stands at the very core of the university. And we have the very good experience, and I would like to share that experience as well. And also, in terms of our experience, our success lies in the fact that we have a very strong cooperation and coordination between the departments within the university. I think that should be the starting point. We have innovation center from one side. From another side, we have the career center as well as international relations department. And we are working together in order closely cooperate and get in touch with the industry. Again, we are coming to the importance of the industry as well, because for whom we are creating all those, let's say, the technology and the project, definitely for the industry. Definitely, since we are also under the SOCAR, State-Oil Company of the Republic of Azerbaijan, so it's relatively easy for us, since we have this access to the SOCAR and its partners, as well as we have the partnership with other energy companies in Azerbaijan, as well as in the global companies as well, with the BP, Schlumberger, for instance, as well as the other companies. And we deeply cooperate and we learn what is their need. It's very important for us to understand what was their need. We have the frequent conversations, frequent meetings. We frequently organize trainings as well as for our students. And also one of the important aspects is that we are, as a university, also attracting those professionals that work at that companies as teachers that teach to our students, so that it enables them to broaden students' horizon, as well as provide the the needed information in terms of the what is the let's say the needed in the industry now. It's the also important aspect for us, and so this cooperation with the industry, within the university as well as with the industry, helps us really to manage this process. From another perspective, I would also like to mention that we also frequently organize different programs for our students. But again, this program is also directed to the solving the problems that come from the industry. Again, I would like to provide the maybe the latest experience. We had the hackathon with the Bank Respublika. It's one of the popular the banks in Azerbaijan, and we took their problems. We analyzed what the specific problems they face. We took those problems that's related with the SME, by the way, and then definitely the teams, they come up with the very interesting projects, and at the very end, the company decided to go with the several projects that was actually created during the hackathon, as well as they decided to hire several let's say the students as well. So it's shows how in terms of as a good practice, how it can be integrated as well as the later on implemented. And also another important aspect is I think that it's also the good experience. At the annual basis, we are organizing for the students, definitely for all students, but specifically for our students, we are organizing the conference, and it's not about the theoretical conference, it's in the form of the competition, as well as they should come up with the research projects, as well as to implement in to the certain extent, and they showcase, and they also present their project, their research. And at the end, we come up with the really very important, very interesting projects at the end. And we later, as innovation department, we took those promising ones and implement this. And later on, we come up. We participate in different programs in Azerbaijan as well as the global. So it's another way how we can, let's say, can transform this, let's say, the technology that's created in the university into the industry. But again, I would like to mention that here the important aspect is the understanding what is the industry needed now, and then working on it. So again, in this case, the cooperation, industry and academia is very important. Thank you, I appreciate.
Thank you, I agree. Cooperation is very important, and also more than half my life I am in education system also, and as we can agree and conclude that it's important to have shared responsibility from not only universities but the government and the businesses. And as Aziza mentioned, when we had here the project, it was not only education, it was also their employment process, and business was also involved there, and of course financial institutions who were the who funded this program. Yeah, thank you. If you have questions, you can answer after our panel, because I know that it's time to conclude and finish today. And thanks to my beautiful ladies and for this great discussion, for thank you for your involvement. And we will have now closing remarks. Yeah, Hall 1, Anatoly Motkin, the president of StrategEast, will have closing remarks in Hall 1, and we are inviting there. Thank you.